Hello everyone. In today's video, we're going to talk about 9 MDX string functions. Those are generate, member to string, name to set, set to string, and set to member, set to set, string to set, and string to tuple, and string to value, and tuple to string. So now let's get into the details of each function. First function is generate function. Generate function is actually help you to generate your sets and whatever we pass the values, it will convert to the string format, or it can be like concatenated with any values. To put it simply, if you refer to the normal SQL, we use the concat to concatenation, concat lot of values and convert that as string, right? Same way, generate function will help us to concatenate the values. The syntax for the generate function is where we pass the set and then string expression. So what is the string that we are trying to concatenate, and if at all we want to use any delimiter, like whether you want to concatenate those member values in comma separated or anything, you can mention that under the delimiter syntax. Now here is the one example. In this query, what I did, I just simply trying to concatenate all my calendar month values. Now you can see here, so I use the generate function, and where I passed my set, which is my calendar month, and then their respective names. That's what I'm taking in the string expression, and I want to separate all my calendar months with AND operator. So that's how I defined it, and then now it's concatenated with all the values are concatenated in and separator. You can see here in the results window. Similarly, what I did in the second query, so I use the same generate function, and but this time what I did, I use the simple all is my delimiter. So now what happens, so the calendar month, for that how many calendar months we have, wherever we have, and the reseller sales amount will be repeated for all calendar months, kind of duplicating the same value for all the calendar months. You won't see the calendar months, but you will see the reseller sales amount in duplicated way. If at all you don't want in the duplicated way, then you can execute third statement without all. So now this time it will show only one time with the calendar month and their respective reseller sales amount. So this is about generate. So primarily the generate function will use to concatenate our values and pass it like a string or display in our dashboards. I used in my SSRS reports to show what are the list of the products that we are displayed or fetched from that current dashboard. So such scenarios, I use the generate function to concatenate the values. That's about the generate function. Now moving on to the member string function, member to string function. Member to string function, it's just convert whatever the specified member that we give into the query will be converted as a string. So there is a query that I wrote here. So what I'm doing here, I created calculated member, and here I'm trying to convert my month, the calendar month, that December 2012 to a string. So now if I execute this statement, you can see here my whatever my member that I passed, it's converted as a standard string, and this can be passed to the some other wherever you kind of drill down actions or anything, you can pass this value as a string. This is about the member string. And then next one is the name to set. So the name itself showing that the name that we given, right? So in this format, it will convert it as a set. Set is nothing but, so it's a values, right? So if you take any particular dimension attribute, and then if you within that dimension attribute, if you want to pass the value 1, value 2, then we put those values into set. Let's say you have a category. Under the category you have the, I want to take only the accessories and bikes, right? So now with the product category 4 and 1 I selected. Now whatever you put the values in the curly bracket, it's called set. So now coming back to our name to set, so whatever the value that I passed here, it will be converted as a set for the given value. Now you can see here, it took the value, whatever we passed the string value, the name, right? The name value, it's converted as a set and fetch the data for December 2012 with the default measure, right? Similarly, the second query also does the same. Now this time we'll get the data for 2000. Okay, so we don't get anything because the name to set, this value doesn't exist. That's the reason it didn't fetch any data, but this is how we need to pass the value. So we don't have the value 2012 value under the month, right? That's the reason it didn't fetch any data and it's shown as a blank value. And yeah, you can see here, now executing the first query and second query will give the same results. That's about name to set. It simply convert your name value or string value to set value. Okay, so moving on, next one is the set to string. So set to string is just only convert your entire set values to the string values. Again, it will be converted. Now you look at here. So whatever the set values that we get it, right, usually we, as I mentioned, right, the set we will pass the values with curly brackets, right? Same way the set is converted to simple string. Now you can use this string to prepare your MDX query dynamically for some of the applications. So in our scenario, we have a .NET web page where it connects to the cube, and we dynamically build MDX queries based on the user selection, and then trigger that MDX query to on top of the cube and fetch the data. So those scenarios we use the set to string. The string we will be using to prepare the MDX query. Now moving on, string to member. So whatever the string value that you pass it here, it will be converted as a member to query. Now if I see here, execute this first query where I'm trying to fetch the category bikes information. So now you can see here, whatever the string value that I passed to this function, it's converted as a member and fetch the data for the reseller sales amount. The same query, the second query that I wrote here, and it will give the same results again. Okay, so that's, I mean, whatever the query that you passed here, right, in the first query, it's translated that query to this way and executed the query and fetch the data. So only the difference is we use the string to member. Whatever the string that we passed, it's converted as a member. That's about the string to member. Now next one is the string to set. Again, so whatever the string that we pass it, you can see here it will be converted as a standard set. So now if you look at this query here, we are trying to get categories and their respective members. All these are converted to the set, and then it's passed to the query, and it fetched the reseller sales amount for all members, all products, accessories, and bikes and clothing and components. That's how the string to set will work. And yeah, there is no difference between the this query and this query. Whatever we wrote here with a string to set is actually converted to this way and executed on top of the OLAP queue. Now moving to string to tuple. So again, string to tuple, whatever the uh, columns or attributes that we given in the string, it will be converted as a tuple. But let me tell you the tuple. What is a tuple is nothing but, so it's a combination of the dimension attributes, right? So now you can see here you have the dimension attribute member from category and geography, and there are measured from the reseller sales amount. Whatever you put the columns within the brackets, right, from the different dimensions and different attributes, those called, we call it tuple. Okay, so that's about tuple. Now coming to this string to tuple, so I just passed entire my string values in the proper format where I'm trying to fetch the product category one, which is the bikes information, and geography Canada, and reseller sales amount. Now if I execute this query, what will happen? It will fetch the data for bikes Canada reseller sales amount. It will be converted as a normal tuple query, and then it will fetch the data. And even similarly, you can see here the second query I wrote same, but this time I use the bikes and Canada, but I'm not using the reseller sales amount. Instead of reseller sales amount, it uses the default measure from the cube. So there is no difference between this query and this query. So whatever we wrote here with string to tuple, it will be converted this way and executed in the backend. That's how we get the data. Now moving on, string to value. So whatever the string value that we pass it, it will be converted as a value by using the properties function. You can see here. So what I'm doing here, I created one measure which is X, and we are trying to convert string to value. So I'm trying to fetch my yearly income for the all the customers. Now if I execute this query, what will happen? It will be the yearly income will be fetched for the each customer. So the yearly income is nothing but column, which is a string, then it fetch the value. So that's the reason we call it string to value, right? So now moving on, tuple to string. Again, tuple to string, as I mentioned, right? So previously, this is the tuple. You can see here example. Whatever I wrote here, this is the tuple. It's coming. I'm taking the calendar year from the date dimension and country information from the geography. So whatever we put things in the brackets, it's called tuple in the OLAP queue. Now this will be converted as a string. Let me execute. So yeah, you can see here whatever I pass the tuple, it's converted as a string, and it's printed like a string. And you can use this string to pass to the like parameter for the other applications. So most of these string functions are very useful whenever you want to prepare the dynamic MDX query or pass these attributes or concatenation values to the other applications, or any like preparing the dynamic MDX query, as I mentioned. So these scenarios, these queries will be helpful. These string functions are very helpful and handy. In our scenario, I'm using most of the string functions. As I mentioned, our application is actually a .NET web page application where we provide the selections to the users, and the user will do the selection from the columns in the front end. As soon as they select the columns, So it will take the reference from one of the SQL table, the mapping details, and then it will start building the dynamic MDX query. Once the MDX query is preparation completed, by using these functions, we send that request to the cube, and the MDX query will be executed on the cube and fetch the data. Once the data is fetched, then we translate the data to CSV format and display for the user. So those scenarios, we use all these string functions. That's about the string functions. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.